A man came to my Jesus telling all that he had done to fulfill the good commandments. He knew every single one. Jesus said there's something that indeed he did lack. The Savior told the truth. He didn't hold the message back. He was teaching the truth in love.
Welcome to Teaching the Truth in Love with Feroz Baksh. We appreciate your interest in the Word of God. Please stay with us as we present the truth in simplicity and love.
Teaching the truth in love.
I am so glad that you have chosen to join me for this Bible study. My name is Feroz Baksh. Today, Dr. Jerry Cantrell will continue his lesson series on the danger in delay. This is the final episode.
Hello, Guyana. Jerry Cantrell here with you. I appreciate Brother Feroz allowing me to sit in on the program. I've viewed the program several times from my home here in Alabama, and I appreciate the men who have been on the program and their knowledge in answering your questions from the Bible. And I appreciate them. But I appreciate Brother Feroz letting me be a part of the program, and it's the only way that I get to go to Guyana anymore. We spent 11 years there. It was our home, and actually we were permanent residents of Guyana. And I remember that minister told me when he said, "You're a permanent resident here," he said, "You can do everything that we Guyanese can do, except you cannot vote." And that was okay with us. It didn't matter if we were able to vote or not, but it was just good to feel that you were a part of the nation of Guyana, and we really felt like we were a part of your nation. Brother Feroz is just a good friend and has been for many years, and we appreciate him letting us be a part of this program. We started a study back a few weeks ago, and probably it's one of the most important programs or subjects that we could talk about. And it's all of us are subject to it. We may not want to admit it, but we are. And it's the problem of procrastination. We procrastinate. We put things off. And we're all guilty of doing that. Important things that we know we need to do. Somehow we say, well, I'll take care of that later. I'll do that tomorrow. And it has a tendency, things have a tendency to build up on us. But you know, the Bible doesn't talk about tomorrow. It puts all of the emphasis on today, because we don't know what's going to happen on tomorrow. I have no idea what tomorrow is going to bring. I do what I do today, and I'm glad to be able to do that, and I don't know, what tomorrow is going to bring. There's some of you out there listening to this program. You're not Christians, but you think about being a Christian, and I know from experience, some are saying, I'm going to become a Christian, and I'm going to do that someday. But we don't know if we have a someday. We have today, and that's what's important, and we need to take care of that. I mentioned earlier that when we postpone things, we procrastinate, we recognize that there's a need to change. We know we need to do it, we just don't do it. And we believe that it's going to be, untasteful and distasteful for us to do that. And so we're postponing it. And for some reason, we just think that this is going to be easier to do tomorrow than it is today. And the truth is, we just don't know if we have a tomorrow. We talked about some things, some illustrations from the world where people, think they have a tomorrow. In the academic realm, students put off studying, memorizing those spelling words they need, and they postpone getting started on it. People in the medical realm. I've known people that have put off medical procedures, thinking that it was going to be easier tomorrow than it is today. And then, of course, in the military realm, tomorrow has brought disaster for many armies in our history. And in Bible history, we see where people have postponed doing things that were important until it was too late. And when it comes to biblical matters, and especially when it comes to me obeying God, there's some of you out there know exactly what you need to do in order to become a Christian. And for some reason, you're not doing it. And our hope for you is that you'll see that today is the day and the need is now, and that you'll take care of it. We looked at the fact that in the Bible, Paul had gone into the city of Athens, and he had preached and taught. And the Athenians, some of them said, Paul, we want to hear more about this. But, folks, we read in the Bible from cover to cover, and you'll not find anywhere where the Athenians ever again had the opportunity to hear what Paul had to say. And Paul stood before Felix. And Felix, the Bible says he was afraid. And yet he told Paul, he said, Paul, when it's convenient, I'm going to send for you. One of the biggest problems we have, folks, is it never becomes convenient. It'll never get more convenient for you to obey God than it is today. King Agrippa, told Paul, he said, almost you persuade me to become a Christian. And folks, almost is not obeying God. And Agrippa, we don't find where he ever, obeyed God's commands that his sins might be forgiven. And as far as we know, Agrippa went into eternity with all of his sins. I read a little poem that illustrates what we're talking about procrastination. And it says, on the plains of hesitation lie the bleached bones of countless millions who on the dawn of victory sat down to rest and in resting died. So many times, we have victory in our grasp. We're ready to obey the gospel, and somehow, that gets away from us. The Bible's very clear. Proverbs chapter 27 verse 1 says, don't boast of tomorrow, because you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. What we need to say is, if it's God's will, I'll do this tomorrow. But the thing is, if we know we need to do something, we need to take care of it right now. We need to take care of it today. I just don't know how I'm going to feel tomorrow. I've known many people who, today they were very willing to obey God, but by postponing it, procrastinating, putting it off, their hearts became hardened and calloused. And then when tomorrow did come, they were not willing to obey God. Bad habits have a way of getting their hold on us and will not let go. I've talked to many people who were drug addicts, and they say, I'm going to quit drugs. I'm going to do that someday. But they never quit. They continue on, in that lifestyle. Very few people who are drug addicts, finally kick that habit. And especially people who drink, drunks. I've talked to many of them, and they say, I'm going to quit drinking. I am. Tomorrow or the next day or someday, I'm going to quit drinking. But somehow the bottle has a way of getting a hold on the drunk. When he wants to let go of it, the bottle doesn't want to let go of him. And it's a tough thing to do. And they say, tomorrow I'm going to take care of that. But somehow they never take care of it. People that smoke. Folks, you're doing your body harm if you smoke cigarettes. That's all I can say for you. I mean, I wish you would quit, but a lot of people who smoke, they have a hard time quitting. I used to smoke years ago, a lot of years ago. A doctor asked me one day just recently, he said, have you ever smoked cigarettes? I said, yes, I have. He said, how long ago? I said, well, the last time I bought a pack, they cost 30 cents. He said, oh, I don't count. It was so far back that smoking didn't have any kind of influence on my life. But I'll tell you how hard it was for me to quit. As I was trying to quit smoking, I remember that I had gone some length of time, done real well, but I had what people call a nicotine fit. And I just had an overwhelming craving for a cigarette. And I went down to the store and I bought a pack of cigarettes. And I couldn't wait to get in the car to tear the top off of it and take one out and light it and take a big draw off that thing. I took several and made my head swim. And while I was doing that, I was also driving. I was going home. Well, I became so disgusted with myself that I had given in so easily to letting those cigarettes have that draw on me, that as I was driving home, I reached over and rolled down the window on the passenger side of the car, and I threw those things out the window into a field as we were passing. Later that night, I had another one of those fits. I had another craving for a cigarette. But the problem is I didn't have any more money. But I thought I could remember where I threw them out of the car. And now this is the truth. I'm not proud of it. I'm ashamed of it. But I drove back to that spot, pointed my car, it was in the nighttime, pointed my car, the headlights, out into the field. And I went going through the field out there looking for that pack of cigarettes. And unfortunately, I found them. But I wouldn't have gone into that field in the brightness of daylight, not knowing what kind of varmints were in there. But cigarettes had such a hold on me that I just had to go in there until I found them. Well, that's the way a lot of sinful things are and the kind of hold they have on our lives. Now, I was able to quit, and I'm certainly glad, that I did quit. But what I'm trying to say to you is this. Sinful things have a way of getting a hold on our lives, and they don't give up easily. And today I might want to quit. And if I do, I need to get rid of it. I hear people all the time saying, well, now, preacher, they're involved in some, sinful activity. And they'll say, preacher, I can take it or leave it. Well, the one thing I found in my years of preaching is people that make that statement are always taking it and not leaving it. It's a shame. We don't want to get in this kind of shape where, we just can't turn loose of the sin that's in our lives. Today we want to quit, and today is when we need to let go of them. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verses 1 and 2 says, The Spirit says expressly that in the latter times some will abandon the faith and follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons. Some teachings come through hypocritical liars whose conscience have been seared as with a hot iron. People get so involved in the sin that their consciences are just seared over like a hot iron was taken to it. And as a result, their conscience is no longer a guide. It can't help them. And, that's a terrible situation to get into. When I was in the military years ago, I was stationed on a little island off the coast, the main coast of Japan, a little island called Satoshima. And as a military soldier, I was going to be there for a year. Well, the military sent a medical man around to do physicals on us to check to see, what we might need. And when they checked me, they decided that I needed to go to a dentist, that I had teeth that needed to be fixed. Well, I went in. I was supposed to be on the main island for 1 week TDY. That's temporary duty. And at the end of a week, I sat in the waiting room of the dentist's office, and they said, when we have an opening, we'll call you in. Well, at the end of that first week, they never called me in. And so I had to get an extension of my TDY order, and they gave me another week. Well, I was approaching the end of that week and still hadn't been called in. And I guess they recognized that I had not, and that they were not going to give me more temporary duty. So they finally called me in. And the dentist gave me a shot like I've never had before in my life. He shot me way back here in my jaw. I remember as I was laying there and he was working that syringe and needle around. He was going around the bones, and I believe I felt that needle way up here. And he shot that Novocaine in. And I started getting numb all the way around my face. It started over here where the shot was and came all the way around about the center of my nose. I was numb all over. I mean, it was awful. I couldn't feel a thing. And they did whatever work they wanted to do. And the dentist said, well, look, we've got some more that we need to do. You go out there and sit, and we'll call you back in a little bit. Well, they did. And when I went back in, they shot me on this side. And the same kind of shot way up here back in my jaw. And it came around from over here all the way to the center of my nose. Now then, I'm dead all over. I can't feel anything on my face. And he did whatever he was going to do. And then he said, Airman, you can go to lunch. Well, I thought that was the craziest thing that anybody could say. I was going to go to lunch, and instead of chewing my food, I was going to chew up my mouth because everything was dead. Well, I was smart enough to at least, order soup, and I was eating soup. And some of the others that went with me, they began laughing at me. And I said, what are you laughing at? They said, you got soup running down your mouth, down your chin, all over your shirt. Well, I couldn't feel any of it. I've had people to say they don't give shots like that. You're just exaggerating. Folks, I'm not exaggerating. I was using this illustration in a church down in Florida. And when I finished that night, I was standing in the back talking to the brethren as they came out. And a fellow came up to me and he said, Jerry, I'm a dentist. He said, do you want to know what kind of shot that was? I said, well, number one, I'm just glad you believe me. He said, oh, I believe you, all right. He said, that's called a trigeminal nerve block. And he said, we don't do that anymore. I said, well, I can, testify to the fact that you shouldn't be doing it anymore. And he said, well, it's something that we used to do, but we don't do that. We do everything now, locally where we're working. I said, well, I'm glad to know that. But folks, the point is this. I was dead all over. And sin has a way of doing that to us. That the longer we let it hold on to our lives, it deadens us all over. And we don't need to keep putting off doing what we know we need to do. Tomorrow could bring hardness and callousness of heart. We just don't know. But also, tomorrow could bring death. You say, how do you know that? Well, I know the Bible teaches, Hebrews chapter 9, verse 27, that it's appointed unto man once to die, and then comes the judgment. I have an appointment with death. I don't know when it is. I have no idea. Folks, I am approaching 80 years of age. I had no idea that I would live this long. And I don't know how much longer I might live. I have heart problems. I have a pacemaker. I have, veins that have had to be cleaned out. I've got arteries that have been cleaned out. I have 7 stents. I don't know. I could go to bed tonight and not wake up tomorrow. We just don't know. Tomorrow, could bring death. James 4 verse 14 says, why, you do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life but a vapor that appears for a little while and then vanishes away? Folks, no matter how long we live, our life is like a vapor. It's going to vanish away. My 80 years have just been fleeting. As I look back, I wonder where in the world has the time gone? We just don't know. Listen to how Peter described us. 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 24. He says, for all people are like grass, and all of their glory is like the flower of the field. The grass withers and the flower falls. Now, we all know about grass and how the heat and coolness will cause it to wither and die off, and how at times the flower that's out in the field, out in the grass, it's going to die and no longer be living. And that's the way our life is. And so what this is teaching us is we need to take care of these things now, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. My granddaddy had gone to lunch with some friends of his, and he was sitting at the table. They were all talking. They were eating and talking. And my granddaddy said, I've got to go to the restroom. I'll be back in a few minutes. And he excused himself, got up, and went to the bathroom. Well, the people he was visiting with, they kept talking and visiting, and my granddaddy didn't come back. And so finally they decided they needed to go to the bathroom and check on him. And when they went into the bathroom, they found him laying in the floor, and he had died. I mean, one minute he was alive, the next minute he was dead. I remember a student that we had in Guyana in our school. He was a part-time preacher, worked as a security guard, and he was on his way home from work one day. And he got off of the minivan, and he was walking toward where he lived, and a car hit him and killed him. That quick, he was gone. You see, we don't know what's going to happen. And here's the sad thing. Go back to Hebrews chapter 9, verse 27, where it says, it's appointed unto man once to die, and after this comes the judgment. You know, that's a scary thing. We die, and folks, we can't change anything. Once we die, the next thing that's going to happen is the judgment. You see, we just don't know. And death may come tomorrow for you and for me. And so if there's things that we need to take care of today, we need to take care of it. I don't know what judgment's going to be like for you. I really don't know what it's going to be like for me. But I'm doing everything in my power to make sure I hear God say, well done, good and faithful servant. But you know, for some of us, it's going to be a day of wrath. It's going to be a day of vengeance. It's going to be a day of fire. Cast the unprofitable servant into outer darkness, where there's going to be the weeping and gnashing of teeth. Folks, I don't know. I hope for you it's going to be a day of joy, but you just don't know. John chapter 9 verse 4 says this, we must work the works of him that sent me while it is day, for night is coming when no man can work. And what it's saying is there's a time coming when death overtakes us and we're not going to be able to work. Hebrews chapter 3 verse 15 says, today, if you hear his voice, talking about God, if you hear his voice, do not harden your heart. Today, 2 Corinthians 6 verse 2 tells us that's the day of salvation. I tell you, now is the time of God's favor. Now is the day of salvation. Folks, I don't know where you stand spiritually, but I hope that you're in the hands of God, that you have obeyed his will. But if you haven't, what I want to do is encourage you to take care of that immediately. If you don't know what to do, call in and ask the fellas that are on the panel, and they'll help you. It's been good to be with you. I appreciate the opportunity, and I just hope that God will bless you.
Hello friends, I'd like to offer you a free Bible correspondence course. This is a great opportunity to study and learn from the Word of God. To enroll for your free Bible correspondence course, please send your name and address to the Church of Christ, lots 4 to 6, Canal Dam, Clonbrook Village, East Coast, Demerara. In addition, you can also contact us using the email address and telephone numbers provided. Upon completing the course, you will receive a beautiful certificate.
Are we teaching the truth in love?
Teaching the Truth in Love is a presentation of the Churches of Christ. We invite you to visit a congregation nearby. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to call us on 256-0541 or 646-4946. You can also email us at ferozbaksh@yahoo.com. Thank you for watching and listening. May God bless you richly and keep you safe. Please join us again next time.
He knew every single one. Jesus said there's something that indeed